Hey everybody, it's Robin from Appalachia Cemetery Hunting, and this is going to be our second video on the Eusebia Cemetery in Blount County, Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains. So let's get started. I'm so excited. More extremely good history here. So first, we've got George Haddon, 1749 to 1830, and he fought in the Revolutionary War as part of the Virginia Continental Line. Then we have Andrew C. Hafley, 1838 to 1907. He served in Company A of the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry as a first sergeant in the Union Army during the Civil War. Now, he was captured in 1864 and imprisoned at Sulphur Branch, Tesla, Alabama. Then we have Charles A. Hafley, 1842 to 1903, and he served in Company A of the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Man, there's a lot of soldiers here. Next, we have Conrad Cornelius Hafley Sr., 1749 to 1807, and he was born in Germany, so there's a first settler there. Then we have Euphrasia Gooder Hafley, 1842 to 1887, and the inscription on her headstone reads, "And to thy hand I commend my spirit, thou hast redeemed me, O Lord, God of truth." Beautiful. Next, we have John H. Hafley, 1782 to 1858. Mary Elizabeth Miser Hafley, 1755 to 1845. Sarah K. Hafley, 1787 to 1830. Clarence DeLapp Harless, 1924 to 1982, and he served in the U.S. Army during World War II. Then we have Lewis M. Haught, 1915 to 1986, and he fought in World War II with the U.S. Army. Robert Charles Hedrick, 1922 to 2011, and he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Then we have George Henry, and we don't have any dates for him, but we do know he served in Company E of the 2nd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Then we have Edward E. Hickman, Sr., 1929 to 2010, and according to our source on Find a Grave, he served in the U.S. Navy. Then we have Joshua Hines, 1841 to 1929, and according to our posting that we found, he was a veteran of the Civil War. And here's a photo of him. Then we have Jermaine Houston, 1799 to 1824. John Houston, the date is unknown on his stone. He passed away in 1824. His headstone does say he was 25 years old when he passed, so according to that, he would have been born in 1799. Next, we have Joseph Carl Houston, 1911 to 2009. And this must be a photo of him as a baby with his mother. And Joseph fought in World War II with the U.S. Navy. Then we have Nancy Dorthula, or Dorothy as she's known, Houston, 1847 to 1871, and here's a picture of her. Then we have Robert Lockhart Houston, 1844 to 1906. He fought in the Civil War with the 2nd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army. And here's a photo of him. Then we have Charles Keener Ivey, 1923 to 2007. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II and fought in the Battle of the Bulge. Then we have Robert David Ivey, 1923 to 1997, and he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. William Jeffries, 1766 to 1827, and his wife Margaret Waddell Jeffries, 1771 to 1838. And obviously this is a newer headstone. Then we have Pleasant Marion Keeble, 1845 to 1931. He served in Company H of the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. And here's a photo of him taken during the war. We think this is a picture of a reunion of the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry veterans. Pleasant M. Keeble is in the front row on your far right. I'll give you time to look at that. Let's just pause for a minute. Pleasant was a survivor of the Sultana riverboat disaster at the end of the war. Now this is a picture of the 1920 East Tennessee Sultana survivors reunion. Mr. Keeble is on your far left, and I'm going to give you a time to look at that also. This picture was taken at the 1928 Sultana Survivor Reunion, and you'll notice there's only 4 members left. Mr. Keeble is on the far right, and I'll give you just a second to look at that also. And here's a clipping from an old Iowa newspaper from 1930 talking about the fact that Mr. Keeble was the sole survivor then. The following year, there would be no more survivors left. Men went through a lot. Okay, so now we have John Kirby, 1833 to 1907, and his wife Martha Farabee Webb Kirby, 1830 to 1907. And John died on February the 12th of 1907, within 24 hours of his wife Martha's death, and they was buried in a double grave. I'm wondering, if there was something that they both had and caught, the flu, fever, whatever. You never know. And this is his military headstone. He served as a private in Company M of the 2nd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Here's a picture of him that was taken during the war. And this 1857 Bible belonged to John Kirby and has been passed down through the generations. That would be really something precious to keep. Next, we have Agnes Nancy Boyd Kirkpatrick, 1765 to 1840, and her husband Charles Kirkpatrick, 1759 to 1826, and then their son James Kirkpatrick, 1798 to 1845. Mary Kunz, 1768 to 1831. Thomas H. Magnus, 1889 to 1962, and he fought in World War I with the U.S. Army. Then we have John A. Martin, 1785 to 1843. Warner Martin, 1759 to 1808. Archibald Sloan Mason, 1841 to 1867, and he was a captain in the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry of the Union Army during the Civil War. Next, we have Alexander McCallie, 1781 to 1851, and his wife, Esther Blair, also known as Hetty McCroskey McCallie, 1784 to 1868. Then John McCallie, 1754 to 1831, and this is believed to be his headstone. He was born in Whithorn, Scotland. He fought in the American Revolution, and this is his and 3 other men's Sons of the American Revolution marker. Next, we have Elizabeth Upton McCammon, 1756 to 1827, and her husband, John McCammon, 1757 to 1838. Thomas Houston McCannon, 1854 to 1906, and his wife Cynthia H. Hauser McCammon, 1844 to 1933. And according to our source, he had fought in the Civil War, but it's not said what side he was on. And here's a photo of him later in life. Now we have William Mike McCammon, 1919 to 1999, and he served as a corporal with the U.S. Army during World War II. Next is Calvin Beecher McCampbell, 1845 to 1923, and his wife, Angelina Bogle McCampbell, 1841 to 1923. And according to Find a Grave, he fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War. Now we have Joseph F. McClure, 1840 to 1907. This part of his headstone is actually laying on its side. And this is the base of his headstone. You can see the top portion off to one side. Now he served in the Company C of the 6th Tennessee Volunteer Infantry during the Civil War. Then there's Allen Wallace McComb, 1897 to 1993, and he served in World War I for the U.S. Army and also World War II. He achieved the rank of captain. Now we have Anne Montgomery McCrowski, 1790 to 1829, John Blair McCrowski, 1757 to 1843, and this is John's military headstone. He served as a private in the Virginia militia during the American Revolution. He also fought at the Battle of the King's Mountain. Now we have Mary McChesney, also known as Polly Sharp McCrowski, 1798 to 1884. We're not sure if this is a portrait of her or just a colorized photograph. Now we have Robert Scott McCrowski, 1790 to 1846. Harriet Caroline, also known as Hetty McTeer McCulloch, 1848 to 1927. Now listen to this. She was the lieutenant of the Loyal Ladies Home Guard of the 6th District during the Civil War. The Loyal Ladies Home Guard of Tennessee was a group of women who served in the Union Home Guard during the Civil War. Home Guards were volunteer groups of men and women who protected their communities, delivered messages, and also spied on enemies. And here's a photo that was taken of her in 1915. That's pretty cool. Okay, now we have John H. McCullough, 1830 to 1863. He served as sergeant in the Company B, but we don't know which regiment, and we're not completely sure which side he fought for, but we think it's probably the Union Army. This is from the book Among Loyal Mountaineers by William A. McTeer on page 48. It describes how he died and what his regiment did for his body. I'm going to pause here and give you time to read it. Now we have Thomas Ross McKerney, 1792 to 1845. Bartley Russell McMurray, 1831 to 1910. And he served in Company F of the 3rd Tennessee Volunteer Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. This is a photo of a reunion of veterans of the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry. Mr. McMurray is in the front row on your far left holding a cane. I'm going to give you just a few seconds to look at that. And this is a close-up of him. Now we have Boyd Montgomery McMurray, 1827 to 1870. And this is a photo of him and his wife, Margaret Ann McCammon McMurray, 1832 to 1906. And this is their headstone. Then we have Cecil R. McMurray, Sr., 1917 to 2001, and he served as a private first class in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II. Now we have Jack A. McMurray, 1923 to 2004, and he served as a machinist mate second class in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Then we have John McMurray, 1781 to 1863, along with his wife, Margaret R. Cowan McMurray, 1798 to 1864. Samuel McMurray, 1750 to 1821, and this is his original headstone. This photo shows his military headstone beside his original. And he fought in the Revolutionary War with the North Carolina troops. Then we have Samuel B. McMurray, 1943 to 2013, and he was a veteran of the U.S. Army. Joseph Campbell McMurray, 1841 to 1895. He served in the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. He, among most of the regiment, was captured by Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest, and they was imprisoned at the Cahaba prison camp in Alabama. Now, Mr. McMurray survived the Sultana River disaster. The Sultana was transporting former Union prisoners of war when its boilers exploded. And here's a photo of him. We're guessing it was taken after the war. That was a disaster for sure. Sad, very sad. Now we have Michael McNeely, 1741 to 1822, and he fought as a private in the 7th Virginia Regiment during the American Revolution. Andrew Bogle McTeer, 1820 to 1885, and we believe this picture of him was taken before the Civil War. Now, he was a quartermaster for the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the war. Now we have Ann Bogle McTeer, 1777 to 1865. Now we're going to stop there for this second video on this particular cemetery. There'll be another one, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching and all your nice comments. Please share and like and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. And thank you, and we'll see you next time.